Question number 1, what is the assumption on the nature of their movement? Random motion. The assumption on the volume. The total volume of the molecules should be negligible compared to the volume of the gas. Now, we've also done this calculation in one of the previous papers. Please have a look at that. Now, this is a very common derivation for ideal gases. I've explained this in one of the past papers in a lot of detail. So PV is equals to Nm into mean square speed in the x direction. You know, for an ideal gas, the mean square speed in the x direction would be equal to the mean square speed in the y direction would be equal to the mean square speed in the z direction. And the overall speed of the molecule, because the molecule is moving in 3 dimensions, not just x, not just y, not just z, it's moving actually in 3 dimensions. So the overall speed is given by mean square speed is equals to mean square speed in x plus mean square speed in y plus mean square speed in z. So mean square speed is equals to, all of these are equal, so is equals to 3 times mean square speed in the x direction. You could even write mean square speed in the y direction. Why have I written x? क्योंकि यहाँ पे x लिखा हुआ है इस वजह से. So that means mean square speed in the x direction will be equal to mean square speed overall divided by 3. So you take this 3 to the other side. This is what you get. Now what you do is you pick up this relationship and you plug it over here instead of mean square speed in the x direction. So PV, N, M, and mean square speed in the x direction, which is this one, is replaced by this thing, 1 by 3 mean square speed. So when you put that, you will be able to prove PV is equals to 1 by 3 Nm mean square speed. We've also discussed this relationship that mean square speed is proportional to temperature in Kelvin, or the root mean square speed will be proportional to the square root of the temperature in Kelvin. So if I'm taking root mean square speed, this relationship, I can write this as C1 over C2, which is C RMS1 over C RMS2 is equals to square root of T1 over T2. ये दोनों जो speeds हैं, ये RMS speeds हैं. Alright. So what is the first temperature in Kelvin? 300. The second temperature is 373. 100 को convert कर लें. So T1 is 300. जिसके ऊपर speed थी RMS 520. Put that over here. The second temperature is 373. You want to find C2. C2 will be 579.8, which is 580. Now for this question, what is your peak voltage? You can read off the peak voltage here. It's 4 volts. And what is the RMS voltage? RMS is V peak divided by under root 2. So you do 4 over under 2 and you get 2.8 volts. Now, when they want you to find the frequency, here's what I've done. I've made the actual AC wave for you, which is like this. Please yaad rakhiye that in this discharge time, this wave is going down. This part is made for this, and then this happens. So actually hota kya hai? That you have an AC wave. When you pass it through a full wave rectifier, this is what happens. And then when you add a capacitor, then this is what happens. Which is why in the final waveform that you see, and if I say the cycle is continuing from behind, the final waveform that you see is this, which you see in the question. What I'm trying to tell you is कि ये शुरू कहाँ से हुआ है? शुरू यहाँ से हुआ था. So जब ये negative, मतलब ये wave नीचे जाने शुरू होती है, that is when the discharge starts. So ये discharge कहाँ से लेकर कहाँ तक होता है? ये यहाँ से लेकर यहाँ तक होता है. This part is reflected upwards. So easier words में, what I'm saying is, if this is one time period, right, then how can I represent a time period on this wave? I will start from this peak. Please गौर से देखें, ये नीचे वाली peak को ऊपर रिफ्लेक्ट किया गया है. So इधर तक नहीं रुकना. In the next time period, कहाँ तक जाना है? यहाँ तक जाना है. This is one time period, this length. Why? Because time period is not from here to here. Time period is from one peak, one crest to the next crest. अब जब आप यहाँ से नीचे जाते हो, ऊपर आते हो, फिर नीचे जाते हो, फिर ऊपर आते हो, so ये वाला पार्ट एक क्रेस्ट की वजह से बन रहा है, ये वाला पार्ट एक ट्रफ की वजह से बन रहा है, ये वाला पार्ट फिर से एक क्रेस्ट की वजह से बन रहा है. So you have to take the distance from crest to crest. So if I go on my actual diagram from a crest to a crest, this is going to be your time period. तो हमेशा इसके नीचे मैं करता हूँ, मैं इस तरह की वेव ड्रॉ कर देता हूँ. just to recall, and then I just mark the crests. So इस crest से लेकर इस crest तक. Now if you notice, this is 5 and this is 25. So the time period over here is going to be 20 milliseconds. Frequency is 1 upon time period, so 1 over 20 into 10 minus 3, it'll be 50 hertz. So the key to remember is the time period is never from here to here. That's what a lot of people think. But like I told you कि इसको अगर पीछे की तरफ बैक ट्रैक करो तो यहाँ पे पहुँच जाओगे, इससे इधर आओगे और इससे इधर आओगे. टाइम पीरियड कभी भी ज़िंदगी में ये नहीं हो सकता. दिस कुड बी हाफ ऑफ अ टाइम, नॉट बी द फुल टाइम. सो इफ़ यू टेक इट फ्रॉम हियर टू हियर, ये वाला पार्ट बना क्यों है? ये वाला पार्ट ये इसकी वजह से बना है. सो टाइम कैन नॉट बी फ्रॉम दिस पीक टू अ ट्रफ, इट्स फ्रॉम अ क्रेस्ट टू अ क्रेस्ट. So go from a crest to a crest. I hope you've understood. Frequency will therefore be 50 hertz. Alright, part B, part 1, calculate the change in potential difference. Now, if you notice, you started from 4 and you've entered over here, which is 2.4. So what is 4 minus 2.4? This is 1.6. That's the change in the voltage in the resistor for a single discharge. This is when it's discharging through the resistor. Ye discharge hota hai, this is charge, then this is discharge. Determine the change in the charge on each plate of the capacitor. So Q is equal to CV, delta Q is equal to C delta V. अब जब वो डिस्चार्ज करता है तो कितना वोल्टेज में चेंज आता है? 1.6. कैपेसिटेंस कितनी है? 5 माइक्रो. So micro is 10 raised to power minus 6. So when you do 5 into 10 to the minus 6 into 1.6, you get 8 into 10 to the minus 6. Now calculate the average current in the resistor. So you must understand कि resistor में current आया क्यों है? क्योंकि यहाँ पे capacitor discharge किया. Capacitor discharge किया है तो resistor में current आया. अब ये कितने time में discharge किया? This is 5 and this is 12. So it discharged in a time of 7 milliseconds. And in this time, how much charge did it give? You have calculated that charge as 8 into 10 to the minus 6 coulombs. So average current will be the change in the charge over time, which is 8 into 10 to the minus 6. That's the charge that you dissipated from here to here, divided by the time it took you to go from here to here. The current that you get is 1.14 into 10 is power minus 3, which is what they want you to prove. In this part, they're asking you to calculate the resistance. Now, please note, resistance is voltage over current. You need steady values over here. आपने average current तो निकाल लिया पिछले वाले part में, वो steady current है. But यहाँ पे देखो voltage change हो रहा है and voltage is changing linearly. So you need to take an average voltage. Remember, because resistance में voltage should be constant, current should be constant. Now, what do we do? Voltage is changing. When it is changing, you take an average. और इसका सबसे बड़ा hint ये था, in the previous part, they asked you to calculate the average current. Now, if you're taking the average current, then you must take the average voltage. So this is the part in which you are giving current to the resistance, right? So you need to take an average voltage between these 2 points as well. Your peak voltage is 4 and the lowest voltage is 2.4 volts, right? So your average is going to be 4 plus 2.4 divided by 2, which is actually going to be 3.2 volts. So this is your average voltage divided by the average current, and you'll get 2807, which is 2800 ohms. Now this we've already discussed in the past papers, but let's do it again. There are two magnetic fields: a strong magnetic field, which is used to align all the hydrogen nuclei so that they all precess with the same Larmor frequency. A non-uniform magnetic field allows the position of the resonating nuclei to be determined, क्योंकि वो non-uniform magnetic field एक specific body part पे focus करता है, वहाँ पे वो field strength change करता है, जिसकी वजह से Larmor frequency उस जगह की change हो जाती है. Why? Because Larmor frequency is proportional to magnetic field strength. So that's the purpose of the uniform strong field and then a non-uniform field. Remember, this is a very common question for MRI. Now part B says that frequency of the electromagnetic waves emitted by the protons on relaxation in a magnetic resonance scanner is given by this expression: F is equals to CB, where B is the flux density, C is a constant. The flux density changes by 2 into 10 to the minus 4 Tesla for each 1 centimeter thickness. So the scanner is adjusted so that the thickness of each section is 3 mm. Calculate the change or the difference in the flux density. So 2 into 10 to the minus 4 Tesla for 1 centimeter. So 3 मिलीमीटर के लिए कितना होगा? सबसे पहले 3 मिलीमीटर को कन्वर्ट करें सेंटीमीटर में, which will be 0.3 centimeters. Then you multiply 2 × 10⁻⁴ with 0.3 and multiply x with 1, and you will get the change in the flux density in Teslas, and your answer should be 6 × 10⁻⁵. Next, they ask you to calculate the change in the emitted frequency. They gave you the formula for frequency as 2CB. You want to calculate the change in the emitted frequency. Calculate it by multiplying 2c, c is the constant, which is 2 × 10⁻⁴, with the change in flux density, which is 6 × 10⁻⁵, and you get 1.6 × 10⁻⁴. Question 4, what is meant by work function energy? Work function is the minimum energy required to remove an electron from the metal surface. Next, they've given you a kinetic energy versus frequency graph. We've done this many times in our lectures. So, and they're asking you to identify what is Planck's constant. So the first thing you do is you go back to your photoelectric equation, which was E is equals to phi plus Ek max. Now, Ek should be made the subject because that's on the y-axis. So Ek will be equal to E minus phi. अब ये E जो है ये HF होता है. Ek is on the y-axis, frequency is on the x-axis, so gradient of this graph is going to give you h. So gradient निकालते हैं. Gradient के लिए I took 2 points. One point was this one, 7.1 and 0.54. Remember, this is in electron volts, and 7.1 is in 10 raised to power 14. And the other point is this one, which was 5.8 and 0. So I calculate the gradient between this point and this point. So the coordinates of this point were 7.1 into 10 raised to power 14, comma 0.54 electron volts, and the coordinates of this point were 5.8 into 10 raised to power 14, comma 0 electron volts. So y2 minus y1, convert electron volts into joules because Planck's constant हमेशा joule second में represent किया जाता है. So 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 divided by x2 minus x1, so 7.1 10 to the power 14 minus 5.8 10 to the power 14, and that gives you 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34 joules seconds, and that is your answer, which you will write over here, 6.61 or 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34. I've written 6.6, so let's stick to 6.6. आगे वो कहता है कि एक और मेटल है, उसका वर्क फंक्शन है 2.9 इलेक्ट्रॉन वोल्ट्स, उसका ग्राफ ड्रॉ करें. सो वर्क फंक्शन इज एच एफ नॉट. F naught is your threshold frequency and H is Planck's constant. Planck's constant value is given to you in the data booklet, 6.63 10 to the minus 34. So find out what is the threshold frequency. Threshold frequency is the frequency on this axis, जहाँ से वो line start होती है. So 2.9 electron volts को joule में convert किया, divided by 6.63 10 to the minus 34, you get 6.99 10 to the power 14, which means 7 into 10 to the power 14. 10 to the power 14 to cover, just go to 7. Now when you go to 7, you need to draw a line. I'll draw it for you. Just draw it in a way that it is absolutely parallel to the line which is already drawn. So let's say this is the line. The two lines must be completely parallel. Why? Because their gradients give you Planck's constant. Question 5, what is meant by isotope? Nuclei having the same number of protons but different number of neutrons. You have to calculate the probability per second, which means decay constant, so ln2 over half-life. Half-life is given to you as 52 days. Convert that into seconds and you get 1.54 10 to the minus 7. Now you have a strontium-99 source and the activity after 21 days is 7.4 10 to the power 6. So this is not your initial activity, this is your final activity. वो कहता है determine for the source at the time it was prepared. So they're asking for the initial activity in the next part. Now how do you calculate the initial activity? You do A is equals to A naught e to the power minus lambda t. And how do you go about that? You simply say the activity is 7.4 in 10 to the power 6, that was given in the question, is equals to A naught e to the power minus lambda ln2 over half-life. Half-life was 52 days and the time is 21 days. Remember, they must have the same units. So if this is days, this has to be days as well. जब आप इसको solve करेंगे, you'll get 7.4 10 to the power 6 is equals to A naught into 0.755. By solving this part, you get 0.755. So A naught turns out to be 9.8 in 10 to the power 6 becquerels. That is your initial activity. Now, once you have the initial activity, they want to calculate what was the mass of strontium at that time. So A naught is equals to N naught in lambda. Find out what was the initial number of particles. So A naught is 9.8 10 to the power 6, lambda is decay constant. So the initial number of particles is 6.36 into 10 to the power 13. Now, whenever they say this is strontium 89, तो strontium 89 का मतलब क्या होता है? You've got 89 grams in 1 mole. And 1 mole, how many particles do you have? Avogadro number. So 89 grams represent 6.02 into 10 to the power 23 particles. So all you have to do over here is now, because you're trying to find the mass for these many particles, all you do is take the ratio. So you know 89 grams represent 1 mole, which is Avogadro's number. So 89 grams represent Avogadro's number. So how many grams represent this number? And your answer would be 9.4 into 10 to the power minus 9 grams. All right, in question number 6, what is attenuation? Attenuation is the decrease in signal power. What is noise? Noise is random, unwanted power. So regenerators do not amplify the noise that has been picked up, because noise is fluctuations. Your digital signal is a series of ones and zeros. So if noise is added, noise is like this. So these are fluctuations in that ones and zeros. And because digital signals are only ones and zeros, therefore the regenerator is programmed in a way that it does not need to pick up the variations between ones and zeros. So the variations are not necessary, they're not needed. So the regenerator does not pick them up, because the only thing important is the 1 level over here and the 0 level over there. Now, part C, a transmitter on Earth produces a signal of 2.4 kilowatts. So signal आप जो Earth से भेज रहे हो, जो input भेज रहे हो to the satellite, that is 2.4 kilowatts power. This signal, when received by the satellite, has attenuated by 195 decibels. It loses power, obviously, because of distance. So वो पूछ रहा है कि how much signal is received by the satellite. So what's the output? You understand, this is the input that you're sending to the satellite, but what's the output? So attenuation is minus 10 log power output power input. Attenuation is 195. So 195 is equals to minus 10 log P out over input power is 2.4 kilowatts. So convert kilo into 10 to the power 3. Then just take this 10 to the other side. It's minus 19.5 is equals to log of this. Take the anti-log. You'll get P out over 2.4 10 to the power 3 is equals to 3.16 10 to the power minus 20. And the output power would therefore be 7.6 into 10 to the power minus 17.